As all callers say, well done, Alan. It's brilliant listening to you because, of course, it's just fantastic listening to your encyclopedic knowledge and telling us what's going on left, right, and centre. But I think the reason why I called up was just to say, as you were talking earlier on about Borneo and saying about how wonderful it must be just to be able to go out there and live how you want to live and build your house and farm your crops. It's a case of when I look around in Scotland today, and not just in Scotland, but America or England or Wales or Ireland, but I look and I see that we have no culture anymore, and it's an interesting thing to say, because I say it to lots of Scottish people. I say, what is it really defines you as a Scotsman? Because you eat curry, you drink foreign beers in the bar, you listen to American music, you watch American programs, and if I asked you, what happened in the 9th September back in 1937, you wouldn't be able to tell me it was the Battle of Flodden Fields. And the thing is, it's a case of this is something that all Scotsmen, as you know yourself, because I know you're certainly well versed up on Scottish history, but most Scotsmen, and I could certainly say English and Welsh and Irish, haven't got a clue about their own culture because they're living as globalists in a globalist society. And yet it's a case that, they're just... It kind of really saddens me, Alan, because I think, you're taking your nationality from the fact that you're born here, but yet all these rampant nationalists all over England and the BNP, for example, one of them, I think, you'll continue this kind of charade, this false facade of life, continuing to believe that you are who you are, but yet, you'll go down there and eat your curry at the weekend and drink your foreign beers in the bar, and you'll do nothing at all to promote your own culture, but you'll continue believing you are something you're not.
Yeah, and they're absolutely ignorant of their own culture. And it's not their own fault because, as I said before, after 1746, you were forbidden to speak the Gaelic, for instance, in Scotland on pain of death after the rebellion, And same with wearing the kilt too. You couldn't wear the kilt unless you joined the British Army, and then they sent you abroad.
Of course.
And then after that, of course, they basically... from London again, they demanded that you put an education system in but in Orwell's memory hole, all those other history went down the memory hole. And even when I went through school too, I had to look into it. I said, this isn't what I was reading in the libraries, the old libraries. The history was getting taught at school, whole chunks were just missing there. And when I read the originals, I thought, my God, there's a rich history here. But then I found, of course, that not only the Frankfurt School and the Macy groups and all the rest of it, and John Dewey, that came from, again, Frankfurt group, they said that they would literally eradicate all the bad bits in history so as that people wouldn't be angry at other peoples anymore. And that's what they've done. And he also said we shall shower them with global news. Now, most of the news you get now is from somewhere over in India or somewhere else, and really doesn't affect you in your own little area, what's happening in your life. But you're bombarded with local news. In fact, often it's hard to find out what's really happening locally.
It's actually quite amazing because, I lived in London, probably like yourself, Alan. I'm a musician like yourself, and, I remember listening to some of your old shows and listening to this young lady who spoke up talking about how, she'd eventually found out the truth and she'd, realized that she'd been lied to all of her life. And it's a massive hit that hits you when you realize, I've been lied to. You think, what am I going to do? And of course, to me, it was kind of like I experienced how I can classify the Kubler-Ross model, where you go through the 5 stages of grief. Yeah. And when I look at the situation, I've come back to Dundee now. I left Dundee back in 1993, a population of over 200,000 people. It's now a population of 140,000. There's high unemployment. The city is full of smackheads, people high on drugs. Yeah. And just to kind of move on as well, just like what you said in the past about certain things about people have talked in the past. I've listened to your show quite a lot now, but they've spoken about moralities and immoralities, and I kind of think, I come back to Dundee, I've come and I've seen the way people are, and I think, as you've spoken about intergenerational sex, and you've spoken about taboos, and I think about the fact of, we're leaving ourselves in a situation where we've already accepted, as much as I'm not prejudiced to anybody, but we've accepted a homosexual society, and it's a case of thinking that once you let a taboo into society, then you can't stand on any moral high ground and defend, because you've already you have created an immoral society, which means simply, you've allowed homosexuality, and listen, get ready for pedophilia, get ready for cannibalism, get ready for necrophilia, get ready for incest, get ready for every single bad thing that's going to come,
That's, well, we're already eating, as I say, in certain foods, there's little molecules from aborted fetuses and stuff for flavor enhancement. And just like China, they're taking the whole fetus, but eventually will get there, I guess, with austerity. However, what they call it at the top is a technique, and it's called the institutionalization of culture and new topics into society. You hear this at the United Nations all the time. And they said that they would institutionalize the greening program, so it wouldn't matter what you were teaching in any kind of class in school. You have to start off with the greening and how it would affect the feminist program and this program and that program, and then get on with your actual lecture on whatever it happens to be. They already do that, by the way, in universities in the US. So it's so politically correct that it's incredible to even get a lecture across without having to go through this rigmarole of pointing out every single minority group first and how it's going to affect them, and then get on with the actual deal. I mean,
Can I also just say quickly, Alan, as well, I mean, I know, I don't want to take up your time, even though I'm calling from Scotland, but, it's wonderful listening to you, because it's as many people have spoken to you in the past, they said, talking to you and listening to you, it's as if, you feel, it's like, just to kind of like quote George Carlin, when you're born, you get a ticket to the freak show. When you're born in America, you get a front row seat. But it is that case that when people listen to yourself, Alan, we do kind of like feel that, we're not going mad, because there's other people who understand exactly what's going on in life.
Absolutely. You got to know there's other folk out there thinking like you. But thanks for calling. And I'll be back with more after this break.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
Hi folks, we're back cutting through the matrix, and there's Paul from Australia hanging on there too. Are you there, Paul?
Yes, Alan. Thank you so much for taking my call. It's a great honour to be on your show of Cutting Through the Matrix.
Yeah, thanks for calling, yeah.
You're welcome. Yes, a couple of comments. I love your information. It's, I believe to be 100% accurate, absolutely. And a couple of comments is that, these powers that be think they might have all the power and authority and all the money in the world, but, I love it when they'll get their payback, And how many people realize this, that, Armageddon, the infamous, I think that's probably the most looked up thing besides the Antichrist on Google, wouldn't it be, Alan? That, who's the Antichrist and what will Armageddon be like, doom and gloom.
Mm-hmm. But
I found out from the research and stuff like that Armageddon is an actual place called Armageddon. Did you know that?
Yeah. And it's a plains in Megiddo there too, yeah.
That's right. And all it is that when Satan and his dominions get all to there with an army, there is not even one fire triggered, pulled, because simply from the brightness of his coming, of Jesus Christ, simply from the brightness of his coming, wipes them all out, and it's not even a punch pulled, just from the brightness of his coming. But before that, though, that there also 200 million army that's meant to be going around the world killing people?
Well, I think it already is, isn't it?
Probably. Probably. But you know what that actually is? It's not Russia or China. To one Bible scholar, and it sounds plausible, that I know it sounds crazy, but it's like that movie Rain of Fire, where a whole lot of dragons from the great abyss, from the bottomless pit opens up. Uh-huh. What that is actual dragons. That's where the whole fire comes from. It's not from nuclear fallout, but it's from actual dragons flying around.
I thought that came from the Rothschilds' vault under their private residence.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, no, I just wanted to say that, man. I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Thanks for calling. And there's Dave from Arizona hanging on. Are you there, Dave?
Alan?
Yes.
I just had a few comments about the other caller before the last one,
mm-hmm.
and you were talking about homosexuality.
Yeah.
And how it's kind of permeated our culture. And I think there's kind of a division in kind of the Patriot Society and the freedom movement as to how they should view human sexuality and homosexuality. And I don't think it's a small issue, because people need to realize that, in a way, sex is politics.
Sex is politics in a sense, but it depends again about what stance you take for the Freudian or what. He always talks about libido. What is true is that the psychopaths at the top certainly have a lot of that, and they don't care what they're going to sleep with or whatever they're doing. But the fact is, it's a power thing with them.
Right.
with homosexuality, it's not like homosexuals just suddenly appeared. What it is, again, it's institutionalization of homosexuality in the culture. And that means it's been promoted from the top down. And anything promoted from the top down always has a different purpose. Even when they're using different groups as well. I tell people that beware of any group you happen to join or actually even put yourself in recognition with, because you're generally being used for something else.
So go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, I can remember back in 2000, the International Censors Committee boards met together. Each country has its censorship committee for supposedly television and good viewing and so on. And they met, and they published it in the newspapers in Canada and the States. And one professor in the States stood up, I think, and wrote an article a couple of days later. He must have attended it. One professor in Toronto did the same thing. They're identical. They're like handouts. And what they said was, now that we've won the rights for homosexual TV viewing and so on, it will be promoted more and more and more. And then, but the guys didn't stop there. What was really shocking was he said, we must now push for the envelope, he says, and really push for bestiality and intergenerational sex. When you understand there's a different agenda behind all of this, to utterly bring society down until you have no idea of what any kind of normality is, never mind affection or love or anything else. This is an attempt to utterly destroy society. Remember what they've always said, to bring in a new world order, they'd have to destroy all that had gone before. And that primarily meant all values that had helped people down through many, many centuries. They'd have to be eradicated in order to rule each individual on the planet.
And using homosexuality as a tool is like, it's the oldest trick in the book.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's no civilization that has been able to survive a kind of the infiltration of homosexuality. If you look through history, there's the remnants. No.
But what you do get, there are definitely clues when a society is going down the hill. And apart from the massive corruption you'll see at the top, and I could read all night if I had all night just on the corruption in governments, right, just from today's news from all over the planet. But you also get to the massive incredible lavish banquets they attend, blowing billions of dollars of your cash. And you also get, again, incredible promiscuity of all kinds. In the open, out in the open. There's another guy done in New York after Strauss-Kahn was done just today, a guy who was the ex-chairman of the Bank of Egypt, for the same thing. This is the way they view anybody around them. It doesn't matter if it's a child, a boy, girl, whatever. It's power, you see. So when all of these things are pushed to the top, now, by the same understanding, if you want to bring society down, you follow the same basic rules of how previous civilizations collapsed. Greece, Rome, and so on. And therefore the different groups that rose to the top in prominence will be promoted now at the same time to bring down the present society to go into the new. And so they're using all the different groups and giving them lots of funding and lots of media attention and lots of political correctness and indoctrination amongst everybody else, which of course agitates everyone else. That's the intention of it. And it's in your face right now. So if you understand the formula that countries go along as they're going down, or nations or empires go down, you simply follow the same formula and promote it, and you'll also have the big collapse at the bottom, at the top, and the bottom. Yeah.
That's the problem, though, isn't it? People don't think that there actually is a formula that...
Professor Carroll Quigley gave some of his top lectures on this very formula. And he should know. I mean, he was teaching basically the whole, the foreign office for the whole of the U.S. He was the man who went in and told them of all different cultures, history, philosophies, and how they rise and how they fall. And he always did it through formulas, and he went through that whole formula of how nations and empires collapse. Watch out for this, and this. Again, the rise of New Age type or paganistic religions will be promoted. Well, everything you'll notice today is promoted from the top again down, not from the bottom up. It's from the top down. So people are deliberately bringing down all cultures to recreate everything from new once this collapses completely. Yeah. Eventually you won't be able to make judgment upon anything. And I've said before, pedophilia itself will eventually disappear from the books because it'll be so acceptable. There's already been court cases in a few countries where
it's a case that, they're just, it kind of like really saddens me, Alan, because I think, you're taking your nationality from the fact that you're born here, but yet all these rampant nationalists all over England and the BNP, for example, one of them, I think, you'll continue this kind of charade, this false facade of life, continuing to believe that you are who you are, but yet, you'll go down there and eat your curry at the weekend and drink your foreign beers in the bar, and you'll do nothing at all to promote your own culture, but you'll continue believing you are something you're not.
Yeah, and they're absolutely ignorant of their own culture. And it's not their own fault.
Because I say to lots of Scottish people, I say, what is it really defines you as a Scotsman? Because, you eat curry, you drink foreign beers in the bar, you listen to American music, you watch American programs, and, if I asked you, what happened in 9 September back in 1937, you wouldn't be able to tell me it was the Battle of Flodden Fields. And the thing is, it's a case of, this is something that, all Scotsmen, as you know yourself, because I know you're certainly well versed up on Scottish history, but most Scotsmen, and I could certainly say English and Welsh and Irish, haven't got a clue about their own culture because they're living as globalists in a globalist society. And
down the memory hole. And even when I went through school too, I had to look into it. I said, this isn't what I was reading in the libraries, the old libraries. The history was getting taught at school. Whole chunks were just missing there. And when I read the originals, I thought, my God, there's a rich history here. But then I found, of course, that not only the Frankfurt School and the Macy groups and all the rest of it, and John Dewey, that came from, again, Frankfurt group, they said that they would literally eradicate all the bad bits in history so as that people wouldn't be angry at other peoples anymore. And that's what they've done. And he also said we shall, because, as I said before, after 1746, you were forbidden to speak the Gaelic, for instance, in Scotland on pain of death after the rebellion, And same with wearing the kilt too. You couldn't wear the kilt unless you joined the British Army, and then they sent you abroad.
Of course.
And then after that, of course, the basically from London again, they demanded that you put an education system in but in Orwell's memory hole, all those other history.
As all callers say, well done, Alan. It's brilliant listening to you because, of course, it's just fantastic listening to your encyclopedic knowledge and telling us what's going on left, right, and centre. But I think the reason why I called up was just to say, as you were talking earlier on about Borneo and saying about how wonderful it must be just to be able to go out there and live how you want to live and build your house and farm your crops. It's a case of when I look around in Scotland today, and not just in Scotland, but America or England or Wales or Ireland, but I look and I see that we have no culture anymore, and it's an interesting thing to say.